Hey guys, welcome or welcome back to another day of Bookmas. I'm somebody who has such a bad habit of starting a bunch of series and then taking ages to finish them or never finishing them. I really don't know what it is about me, but I will start a new series or I will continue one. I'll finish the book and be like, wow, stunning, love it. On to a different series or on to a new book. Very rarely have I finished a book in a series and then immediately gone on to read the next one. I feel like I rarely even read 2 books in a series within the same month. I really don't know why I'm like that, but it leaves me in a predicament where I am in the middle of so many series. I actually have a series tracker in Notion because I have to keep track of all of it. And on here, I have 28 series that I have started and not finished. Some of them I'm in the middle of, some of them I decided I just don't want to continue. And that's kind of the point of this video. I'm going to be going through all the series that I'm in the middle of and telling you if I'm going to continue them or not and why. I have all the books kind of just scattered around here, so we're not going to go in any particular order. And the first book that I have in front of me is the third one in the Magnolia Park series, which is The Long Way Home. I feel like I've talked about this series a lot and it should be very obvious that I'm going to continue this. I think I read the first 2 books within the last 6 months probably, and I really enjoyed them. Book 1 was a 5-star read for me. I was obsessed. And actually, it's one of those series where I feel like I read books 1 and 2 pretty close to each other, at least for my standards. It was within probably 2 months of each other, and I honestly don't know why I haven't read this one yet. The cover is kind of throwing me off because it's very pirate ship, and this series is about rich British socialites, so very much not pirates. I'm not really sure what we're gonna get up to in this one. I kind of feel like I'm just forgetting that I have this one. So like I said, I definitely want to get to this one soon, and I actually put it on my 10 books to read before the end of 2024. We are getting towards the end of the year, and I feel like I'm reading at such a slow pace, so I don't know if I'll actually get to this one before the end of the year, but I will be getting to it at some point soon, 100%. Then we have a book that has been haunting me for quite a while, which is A Court of Wings and Ruin. This is the 3rd book in the ACOTAR series, and I think I've had this on several TBRs. It is also on my 10 before the end list, and I've just been saying that I was gonna read this for so long. It's been maybe like 10 months since I read the 2nd book, and what's really crazy is I read book 2, I absolutely loved it, and I said, you know what, the setup and everything and what I've heard of book 3, I think that book 3 is gonna be my absolute favorite. Saying that this one I think has great 5-star potential for me, and then I just have never once picked it up and thought about reading it, really just because it's so long and I feel like I haven't had the time to really commit to it yet. I can tell you right now there's no way that I'm gonna read this book by the end of the year. It was maybe a little too optimistic for me to put this on my 10 before the end, but I will definitely be continuing this series. It just probably is going to take me a long time before I get to it, but hopefully it doesn't take me longer than, let's say, 3 months. We'll see about that. Then I have Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett, and this is the first book on the list where I am not going to be continuing the series. I know that this was so loved when it came out. It's a cozy fantasy, and I was very excited for it. It sounded like it was right up my alley, and for some reason, I just found this to be boring. I know that it's a cozy fantasy, and I've only read a handful of them, so maybe this is very par for the course, but for some reason, I just felt like the first 3/4 of the book were so slow. It was not entertaining me. Nothing was really going on, and it took me so long to get through this. And then we got to the last quarter of the book, and I feel like the plot 100% just changed, and it was about something totally random. I didn't really connect with it. I felt like it was kind of out of nowhere, and I also really didn't like the romance in this one. So I am gonna keep this book on my shelves. I'm not gonna get rid of it because I think it's really pretty, and I didn't hate the book. Like, I think I gave it a 3.5. I just listed all the things that I thought were negative about it, but it's not like I hated it to where I want to get it off my shelves. I just unfortunately will not be continuing this, which is really sad because I had such high hopes, and I see everybody else that's getting really excited as new books come out, and I just don't feel the same. Then we have City of Glass by Cassandra Clare, which is book 3 in the Mortal Instrument series. I will definitely be reading this book. I just don't know at what point I'm gonna get back into it. I feel like I read the first 2 kind of close to each other, and I was really enjoying them, and I felt like they were really great palate cleanser books, but then for some reason, I don't know why, I just haven't had the urge to continue this one. But a goal of mine is to eventually get through all of the Shadowhunter books by Cassandra Clare, which I think there's like 15 or 20 of them, and I have to finish this one before I can move on to the next series and continue. So it's definitely gonna happen at some point, but for some reason I'm just not feeling it at the moment. But I do have a feeling, and I hope that when I pick this up, I'm gonna get sucked right back into the story and get really engrossed in it again. At least I hope. But right now, I don't know why. It's just not calling to me. Then we have Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig, which I'm 100% gonna read this soon because I just read book 1 and it's only a duology, so this is the last one. And I'm honestly trying to get better at reading series quicker. So since I just read the first one and started it, and I feel like I still have it really fresh in my mind, I want to continue. I'm obviously not doing very well with all the series that have been on my list for a long time, but I've decided that any new series I start, I do want to really prioritize finishing them as soon as possible, just so that this list of series I'm in the middle of doesn't continue to grow exponentially. And I really enjoyed book 1 of this one, and I feel like the ending is setting us up for such an interesting 2nd book. I'm not exactly sure how it's gonna go, but I've heard that so many people like this book even more than the first one, so I feel feel like maybe it has 5-star potential. Next up is Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros, and I feel like I've talked about this book so much recently that I'm gonna be very quick. This is book 2 after Fourth Wing, and I've had it since the day it came out, and book 3 is coming out I think in January, and all of a sudden I have this renewed spark to read this one, and I'm gonna be reading it as soon as Bookmas is over. Okay, before I forget about them, I have 2 books to talk about that I don't have physical copies of because I got rid of them, and the first is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I have not talked about this book much on my channel because I had very strong feelings about it and they were very negative, and I feel really bad bashing a brand new young author, so I don't really like to talk about it much, but also it just has such a huge following that I feel like if I talk negatively about it, it's one of those books that I'm really gonna upset people about. But it's a book that I was so excited for. I bought it on release day. I followed Lauren Roberts' story on TikTok and I was so excited for it, and it just fell so flat for me. To preface, I did get the indie published version, so now that she's been traditionally published, I'm hoping that they have re-edited and fixed a lot of the issues that I had with the book, but I just really didn't like the writing, and I felt like it was so much of a ripoff of the Hunger Games, not just in the overall premise, but in so many of the scenes. I was like, I've read this before in the Hunger Games. So yeah, that was probably one of my biggest disappointments ever, and I will definitely not be continuing the series. The other is The Remnant Chronicles by Mary E. Pearson. I actually had a reading vlog where I read the first one, which is The Kiss of Deception, and it's another one that I was so excited for and I was so let down by. I remember that I didn't really love the plot itself, and I felt like it didn't have enough fantasy elements for what I was wanting, and I also am pretty sure that I did not enjoy the romance in that one, so I just decided not to finish it. And my original plan was to read those 3 books and then read Dance of Thieves, which is its own duology, but it takes place I think after The Remnant Chronicles, and a lot of people recommend that you read that series first before going on to Dance of Thieves, but a lot of y'all told me that I really don't need to, and I really didn't feel like pushing myself to get through it just so that I could get to a different series, so I'm not going to. Next series is Heartstopper, and I am on volume 3. This is a graphic novel series and I love it so much. It is very popular and for good reason. I feel like it's just so cute and heartwarming and sweet, so I'm definitely going to continue it, and I feel like because it's a graphic novel and it's so quick and easy to get through, I'm probably going to read this one way quicker than I get to any of these other ones. This is one that I've actually been kind of pacing myself for because I didn't want it to be over too quickly, but I love it. There was never any question in my mind about whether I was going to finish this one. In a similar vein, we have Spy Family, and I'm definitely going to continue this one as well. I'm currently on volume 7, and this is a manga, so same thing, very fast paced. I get through these books very quickly, and I feel like I was really on a roll of reading these pretty quickly, and then I don't know what happened, but I kind of stopped, and I haven't read one in a while, so maybe 2025 is going to be the year that I really focus on it and finish the series. Then we have the Twisted series by Anna Huang, and I am on the last book, which is Twisted Lies. I started this series probably 2 years ago, and I really enjoyed it at first, but now it's not necessarily my cup of tea anymore. It's not really the kind of romance that I really go for, but since I've read the first 3, I just want to knock this one out and finish it, even if I'm not really that intrigued by it and I don't know if I'm gonna love it. So this is one that I'm not necessarily thrilled for. If I'm being honest, I don't really want to read it, but I just want to be able to say I finished the whole series and finally be done with it. Next is The Summer I Turned Pretty, and I'm also on the last book of this one, which is We'll Always Have Summer. And this one I am definitely going to continue it, but I've been holding off because I want to read this right before the 3rd season of the show comes out, because I did that for the other seasons. I read the book right before the show came out, and there's a lot of things that they changed in the show, so I feel like it was really fun to have this fresh in my mind and really be able to compare the differences between the book and the show. I don't know if there's a release date yet for season 3, but whenever it comes out, I will be reading this right before watching. Then we have the Truly Devious series by Maureen Johnson, and this is one that I don't think I'm going to continue. I would say I'm like 90% set on this one. It's not like I hated this book while I read it. I just never really cared that much about what was going on, and I felt like the whole time we were following this one mystery, and then at the end we got this plot twist that I didn't really care about at all, and I didn't know if it correlated to the story that we've been following the whole time or if it was starting something new, but I just remember feeling bamboozled. I finished it and I was like, what the heck was that ending? I don't know if other people found that ending to be really shocking or if it sucked them in to want to read the next one, but for some reason it did the exact opposite for me. A small part of me feels like maybe I'll give it a second chance. Like maybe if I did a video where I was giving series a second chance, this could be one of them, but at the moment I am perfectly content to never finish it, never figure out what happens. Then we have The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune, which I loved this book. This was a 5-star for me. This is probably one of my favorite books of the year. I just loved it so much and I really liked his writing. And when I read it, I had no idea there was going to be a second book, but in September he came out with book 2, which is Somewhere Beyond the Sea, and I believe that it follows at least some of the same characters. I don't really know what the plot of that one is, but I kind of want to go into it blind, and I will definitely be picking that one up. I just am kind of waiting for it to come out in paperback. It's currently in hardcover hardcover, and it probably is going to take like a whole year before it comes out in paperback. But I have this one in paperback and I don't really want to read that one in hardcover. So while I really loved it, I'm not really in a rush to pick that one up just for that reason, but I am absolutely going to continue it. Then we have the most recent series by Abby Jimenez, and the last book is Just for the Summer. I think that this series is just called Part of Your World, which is the name of the first book, but it's a series of interconnected romances. I really enjoyed the first two books and everybody was raving about this one when it came out, so I'm 100% going to read it, but I'm probably going to wait for the spring or the summer just because of the name and the cover and what I assume the vibes are like on the inside. But this is one that I'm so excited for, and I want to see if I love it as much as everybody else. Then I have the Chestnut Spring series, and I am on book 2, which is Heartless. I enjoyed Flawless, which was book 1. I wasn't like head over heels in love with it, but I have had so many people tell me that it's kind of the worst book in the series and that it just gets better. And even without knowing that, I think I would have continued it anyways. But because they're just interconnected romances, I feel like it's a series that I'm not really in a rush to continue. It's not like a fantasy series or something where each book builds on the last one. I'm pretty sure you can just read any of these out of order if you really wanted to, but I do plan on continuing them and reading them in order. It's just not super high on my priority list right now, but I will be reading it. Then we have None Shall Sleep by Ellie Marney, and there's currently 2 books out. I actually thought it was just a duology, but then I found out she's coming out with a 3rd one, and I think last time I checked it didn't have a name yet or didn't have a cover, but now it does. It's called All Shall Mourn, and it comes out in February. That is sooner than I expected. It's a young adult murder mystery series, and I really enjoyed it more than I expected to. I think that when book 3 comes out, it's not going to be something that I'm immediately running out to go get, but I definitely want to continue at some point. I'm really curious if book 3 is going to be the last one or if it's going to be really long. Next is the Lovelight series by B.K. Borison. The first book is Lovelight Farms, and this is the only one that I've read so far. There's 4 books and they're all romances that take place in a small town. This is one that I want to continue, but I just don't know if I care about it enough to really get to it anytime soon. I don't have the next book, which is In the Weeds, but I'm pretty sure that's the one that people really rave about. I think that's the best one. I would like to get to it, but I'm definitely more intrigued by Heartless and Just for the Summer. This one I feel like is not as important for me to get to, so I guess I want to continue it, but will I really? I don't know. I feel like there's not a super high chance that I'll get to it at least in the next like 6 months to a year. So it's kind of just sitting in the middle, I guess. I feel the same way about this one, which is Arsenic and Adobo. I read the first 2 books and I enjoyed them, and I thought that I would continue the series, but it's been at least a year and I've never once had the urge to pick up the 3rd one. But on my series tracker, I still have it as like a maybe, because there was nothing about this series that I was like, oh, I don't want to continue it, but I just don't know if I like it enough to read the next one. I feel like at this point, since it's been so long, I'm probably never gonna get to the 3rd one, but I'm kind of like, never say never. Then I have the Never After series by Emily McIntyre. The first one is Hooked and the second one is Scarred. I don't know what the 3rd one is, but this is a series that I don't think I'm gonna continue. All of these are dark romances that are very, very loosely based off of Disney stories. So this one is about Captain Hook and Wendy. The second one is about The Lion King. I think she has others about Aladdin and The Little Mermaid, but they're just very, very loosely inspired by those stories. And I feel like they're all kind of wild and out of pocket, and this one was a fun reading experience, but I just really did not like Scarred. Reading that book kind of scarred me. I just didn't enjoy it. So I just don't think I'm gonna continue. I think that overall I'm not really a dark romance person, but this first one was fun. Then we have the Crowns of Nyaxia series by Carissa Broadbent, and I am on the 3rd book, which is The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. This is a vampire fantasy series, and I definitely want to continue it. This is actually the last book in the series, but then I think she's coming out with other series that I think are loosely connected, but I'm not really sure. But I think when I read this one, I will be finishing the Crowns of Nyaxia series. I had a fun time with book 1, and then book 2 is a novella, and I really enjoyed it. And it got me very excited to read this 3rd one, and then I don't know why I haven't picked it up yet, but I'm definitely going to continue and finish this one. Then we have Red Rising by Pierce Brown, which I've talked about this series so many times. It's a sci-fi, and it's one of my favorite series ever. I really enjoy it, and I am on Iron Gold, which is book 4. I think I haven't read this one yet just because sometimes his writing is a little bit complicated. It's not something to just breeze through, and I feel like his books just keep getting bigger and bigger. So each one is becoming more of a commitment for me to pick up and read, and that makes it sound like a bad thing, but obviously I love the series, so why wouldn't I love a book that's what I love but just longer? I don't know. Long books just intimidate me. I don't know why I am the way that I am, but I 1,000,000% will be continuing this series and reading this book. And maybe this is too ambitious, but I would love to finish the whole Red Rising series by the end of 2025. And to do that, I gotta read this one. Okay, last series is the Hierarchy series by James Islington. There's currently only 1 book out, which is The Will of the Many. And James Islington wrote the Lacania series, which is one of my favorite fantasy series ever. So I was so excited when this series came out, and I really enjoyed it. I only gave it 4 stars. I didn't love it. It wasn't quite as good as Lacanius for me, but I did really enjoy it, and I feel like the plot twist at the end really got me excited for book 2. I have been checking his website for updates to see how he's doing, and I'm pretty sure that he has finished book 2, but I don't know when it's gonna come out. I know it's called The Strength of the Few. Let me see if it has a release date on Goodreads. This is May 6, 2025. That would be really exciting. That seems pretty far away, but also so close, and I'm so excited to get to book 2. So that is pretty much every series that I'm in the middle of or that I've decided not to continue. I know that there are quite a lot, so So one of my goals for 2025 is to definitely cut down on the amount of series that I'm in the middle of, especially all these ones that I have only one book left to read. I should definitely be able to knock those out in 2025. We gotta get these numbers lower for my own sanity. But that wraps it up. That's all I've got for today. So as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope that y'all are enjoying Bookmas. So far it's been challenging but very fun and rewarding, and I'm excited for it to continue. So thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll catch you in a couple days for the next one. Bye!